Hi book nerds, I'm Valentina, a book enthusiast, and today we're just gonna sit down and talk a little bit about A Court with Thorns and Roses. I went into a deep dive of just Sarah J. Maas and this novel and how it came to be. And we're gonna sit down and talk about why I think this is such a good novel to start off in the romantasy or fantasy genre, because this is what started me out getting into fantasy. I am a sucker for the smut. If you've been on TikTok for the last couple of years, you know this novel has made its rounds to every single book lover's shelf. But yeah, so sit down with me and let's chat about more about A Court with Thorns and Roses and Sarah J. Maas. Before I start talking more about A Court with Thorns and Roses, let's talk about the author and her journey into getting this masterpiece and all her other pieces to be New York Times bestsellers. So a little backstory, if you see me looking this way, this is where I have all my notes. At 16 years old, Sarah J. Maas wrote her first novel, Thorn of Glass. How she explained her writing journey according to USA Today and The Telegraph. She was 15 and the day of 9/11, she is from Manhattan. She was in school and she lived through a traumatic experience, and she, on the USA Today and Telegraph, spoke about how she really was going through a hard time and used writing as a way to cope with all these emotions she didn't know how to handle. So that's how Thorn of Glass came to be, if you did not know. A couple of her other inspirations to start writing were The Hobbit, and she speaks in an interview about how the books that she was reading lacked on the female representation of like a hero, so she took it upon herself to write these heroes that were female and that were showed not to only be a love interest, even though technically they are, but not to be a love interest, but to be a strong woman that goes through a lot, but still tries to save people. She took that responsibility and gave us Fair Archeron, Aileen Gallanthy. I can never say it. It's gonna be right here so you can say it. As well as Bryce Quinlan. I almost forgot her name. But yeah, so she took all of these wants from fantasy stories that she wanted to read and embedded them into her stories, including A Court with Thorns and Roses. And she also talked about in an interview how she wanted to really showcase emotions of the aftermath of all these battles, which you can see she took all those emotions from her life experiences into these novels. Especially when it comes to Thorn of Glass. If you read it, you know. Estimations here, from going from 9/11, we go 2002, she started writing Thorn of Glass. I think there's a good 3 books in between. By 2009, she's writing A Court with Thorns and Roses, or actually 2009 is when she roughly finished her first manuscript for publishing. 4 years later, it was discovered by Bloomsbury Publishing. 2 years later, it took Bloomsbury 2 years to publish, which is a short amount of time, but just how it all depends. I talked to my professor about like publishing. It usually takes from 5 to 10 years to publish a book, so 2 years is short, especially for a fantasy novel. So 2 years. So 2015, this novel gets published with this cover right here. Fast forward 5 years later, pandemic hit, and she's republishing this novel with this edition of this cover. And then obviously in between, there's a couple other novels, but in the span of 22 years, Sarah J. Maas publishes 15 novels with Bloomsbury Publishing, which, in a sense, I feel like Sarah J. Maas is Bloomsbury USA's star, because she's racking up all these novels and all these New York Times bestsellers. 15 novels in 22 years. Insane behavior by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, but let's get a little bit more into publishing of it. All of Sarah J. Maas's books are traditionally published by Bloomsbury Books, USA, or US. There's different offices. There's obviously one in London. There's another one, I want to say Tokyo, but don't quote me on that. Maas is one of their top authors. She has a whole special page. I looked at all these other authors and they don't have a special page, so you know she's bringing in that cash into that publishing house. But yeah, that is her little quick rundown of Sarah J. Maas's writing history until this book. So let's dive deep into this book. In an interview, Sarah J. Maas talks about some of the inspirations with, I know she's talked in another interview, but I couldn't find it for the life of me, how she loves Howl's Moving Castle. And it was going around all of TikTok how she might have implemented some of Howl's Moving Castle into this, and I see it. If you've seen it, you know. Does it look familiar to you? Okay. Yeah, and I'm just curious where people found this, because I can't for the life of me find this interview. But I do know, and I'm gonna look at my notes for this because I don't want to butcher it, that a lot of her inspirations were obviously Beauty and the Beast. This is marketed as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. East of the Sun and West of the Moon, Tamlin, which is a legendary Scottish ballad that obviously you could tell one of the characters' name comes from. And then other mythological fairy tale storylines she took from to create this. Going a little bit more about the characters. She prefaces this is future me. A little spoiler. Freya comes from Turkish meaning fairy or enchantment, which is a little bit of a spoiler, I want to say. And kind of foreshadowing what's gonna happen. And then again, Tamlin comes from the Scottish ballad. Yeah, it's such a... Just the names. I even went deep into other names, but I won't go too much into the names because I feel like people have done really deeper dives into this. She takes her time. Even though it took 2 years to publish, she took her time writing this because it's filled with a lot of intricate fairy tales that we've all known since we were kids. Also, she draws in from cultural stories. She draws in a lot of that to build this story and this amazingness. But yeah, going deeper into this book, this map, she took her time. I'm telling you, she took her time. This map is made by Kelly E. Groove. It looks, and people have said this before, this looks like England. Yeah. There's a lot of tiny little details to that. They outdid themselves with this novel. It's one of her, maybe not her shortest, but it's one of her shortest novels. And that's coming from somebody that has read her 900-page book. Plural. Yeah, I read all of them. It's shorter. It's only 448 pages. It basically is the synopsis is of a human girl who basically just hunts for her family because they're poor and hungry, and she's the youngest of 3 sisters, and goes out to look for a good delicious bite because she is frail and thin and needs nutrients. And she ends up killing the wrong thing, and it bites her in the butt because then she has to basically pay for her sin of killing by going with a High Lord, which is a whole other just hierarchy of fairies. Bring in the fantasy in there. Hierarchy of fairies. High Lord, who's you're gonna be my prisoner for killing this dude. He works for me. He was a shapeshifter. And then the story just gets twisted, more twisted as the books comes, and there's so many surprises, and the series isn't even finished. And as someone who read this, I want to say in 2022, and it's only been 2 years, and we still haven't gotten an announcement about the next book. I'm yearning for more. Okay, again, book enthusiast. I want more. And she writes faster than most authors. So Sarah, can you write a little faster? This is just for us. We need to know what happens next. And a lot of... I don't want to say too much, actually. If you haven't read it, I'll let you figure it out. In the end, pick this book up. And if you don't want to buy it, because, again, somehow every author turns out to be problematic at some point, go to your local library. Check it out. Go to Libby. Go to your school library. Sometimes they have it. There's other options. And I know it's hard to separate the artist from their actions. I bought this before all the controversy came out, just want to say. But yeah, everybody's gonna say that there's better books out there to read than this. And I'll say this, the first novel, I think she does a good job in ACOTAR to not over-explain everything, but dive into world building, character building, emotion, character development. I'm trying to name them all. I'm starting out. It's not a bad book to pick up. It's not. It is mind-numbing sometimes to read in a good way, where you just need something to take you out from the reality and put you in a mystical place where hot dudes have wings or are beasts and maybe have accents or maybe are just too perfect to ever exist in this world. It's nice to imagine. It's never gonna happen. But yeah, give it a try. It's not bad. But yeah, that is my little spiel on why you should read ACOTAR. I mean, it's a New York Times seller. It's 50th on Amazon Books. I could go on the list of everything else it has made the charts of, but I don't have that list with me. So, for now, give it a try. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!